very pleased to introduce Onay Kazab, on behalf of Unite the Union.
Thank you. Thank you, comrades, brothers and sisters. First of all, solidarity from our General Secretary, Sharon Graham, who can't be here, unsurprisingly, again, working on disputes, but that's exactly what we are about. Solidarity, but also solidarity and thanks. Thank you to the NSSN for the support shown to Unite members in dispute after dispute. Time and again, the NSSN banner, along with Rob, have been on our picket lines. And with over 600 separate disputes since the election of our General Secretary in August 2021, there have been plenty of picket lines to choose from. And that solidarity and that support have helped us win some 80% of those disputes. It is that solidarity, that support, that has ensured that they are real wins. Wins totalling over 300 million in extra earnings for our members. Think of it as a transfer of wealth from the employers' bank accounts into the pockets of workers. It's a sharp, focused picture of what we are engaged in. A class struggle so that workers keep more of the wealth that they create. And of course, that is why the bosses class hate the public sector so much. If it doesn't create profit, it's no good to them. And I'll come back to that point in just a few minutes to highlight the lies and the hypocrisies of the Tories. But first of all, let's celebrate. Yesterday, workers at Mile Engine Systems announced that following a threat of strike action, they've won a 10.7% pay increase. Security officers at Heathrow, having taken strike action, have won pay increases of between 15.5 and 17.5%. And waste service workers at Welling and Hatfield Obasa have won pay increases of around 13.5% following all-out strike action. I'm not going to go through all 600 disputes, but you get the picture. Double-digit pay increases won through strike action. I'm going to mention a few just to highlight some points. Since our last conference, our members working at a Bellio bus company in southwest London won an 18% pay increase. 18% across the board through all-out strike action. The thing I want to emphasise about that dispute is that the employer initially tried to dismiss one of our lead reps, and we made absolutely clear there can be no resolution until that rep is back at work with all charges dropped, and that's what happened. As the strike wave continues, employers will attack our representatives. It is our duty, our fundamental duty, to make sure that no dispute is settled until those reps are reinstated and protected. At National Express in Birmingham, we had a week of all-out strike action. It only took a week of all-out strike action at that bus company in Birmingham. It was one of the it was one of the negotiating meetings where I had the most fun. Can you imagine? Look, first of all, National Express, a symptom of their own or victims of their own success, got every single bus contract in Birmingham. So, of course, when you ballot Birmingham, all the buses are involved. So we had huge leverage. But it was delightful to walk into a negotiating meeting just for once where the employer says, your dispute is costing me £1 million a day. Just fine. We've won. We've not got much work to do here, brothers and sisters, and that's why that dispute only lasted a week. All of our demands met. What I want to say about the National Express dispute, and something for us to be prepared for some years now, picket lines have been a bit more like happy rallies, if few balloons, some music. The RCN ones have obviously been great, but there are now more and more picket lines that are getting just a bit more bitter. And at National Express in Birmingham, that's what happened at the Coventry site. Initially, it was the community coppers. But when we were lined up, arm in arm, stopping the buses leaving, then the tactical support units came along. You could tell they were hard. They had short-sleeve shirts on and baseball caps. And then it almost turned into those sorts of old-fashioned pickets. But the important point there is that we won the day despite all of that. And in the NHS, where our union rejected the joke of an offer from the government, where we are now reballoting some 26 new employers, and that process has started. Do you remember some years ago when people will have said NHS workers, they'll never go on strike? You know, it simply won't happen. Well, how times have changed. We've also added a new trade dispute. It is not just about pay any longer. It is also about safe staffing. So those ballots that go out are not just demanding decent pay increases, but safe staffing at every trust. And that is a campaign that we are going to build in Unite out of this dispute. It is worth pointing out once again that only 25% of shifts, planned shifts in the NHS, have the planned numbers of staff on them. That is the size of the crisis. And when you hear that in the fifth, sixth, whatever it is now, richest country in the world, we have between 300 and 500 excess deaths per week, that tells you an awful lot about the crisis in the NHS, and that's what tells you what needs to be won. It gets even worse as far as this pay deal is concerned, because we found out that bank workers, and there are an awful lot of them in the NHS, are not getting the full deal. So paltry as it is, there are people who are not even getting what was offered, and that's why we've launched campaigns on behalf of those bank workers. We've been asked by the government what we think of the pay review body. And our view is absolutely clear. Get rid of it and start negotiating. We don't want review bodies, we want negotiations. Now, during the NHS campaign, Sunak and Barclay, etc., they were saying, well, we've just followed what the pay review body says. And yet, listen to the lying bastard this morning. You know, when it comes to teachers and others with the pay review body, if they're going to be offered 6%, he's going to steam in and say, absolutely not, we are not going to pay it. Absolutely gross hypocrisy. But we have no intention of going back to pay review bodies. We quite like negotiations. And that no going back is a theme. As far as the strike wave is concerned, things will not be the same whatever happens tomorrow. That is the reality. I want to give a solidarity greeting to our members at St Mungo's, preparing for all-out strike action. Absolutely magnificent dispute, but another example of the nature of current disputes. No more 1 days and 2 days here and there, but people being prepared to take significant periods of strike action. In the limited time I've got, as far as the laws are concerned and the anti-strike legislation that's coming in, unworkable, unnecessary, undemocratic. Our ballots in 26 new NHS trusts are the answer. The other message we are giving is this. Why are you only talking about minimum staffing levels during strike action? What about every single day of the year? Staff shortages every single day. That is what needs to be addressed. And as Rob said, these laws and every single other anti-trade union piece of legislation needs to be repealed by the Labour Party. The Mayor in London needs to say it will not be implemented. There are Labour councils that run bus services, by the way. They need to say it will not be implemented. And on the subject of Labour councils, if they're serious about helping working people, there's no need to wait until the general election. They are in control of councils with joint budgets and finances comparable to a small European country. Therefore, we make no apology for repeating our demand from Unite. You can build council houses with council rents. You can build and repair schools and nurseries. You can rebuild council services. If you're serious about the NHS, Labour councils can rebuild care services so that patients can be discharged from hospitals, freeing up beds. They can do all that. It's simple. We demand, as per Unite policy, that Labour councils agree and implement needs-based, legal, no-cuts budgets while waging a fight, together with trade unions and communities, against the Tory government to win the funding that we need for services for the people that they're elected and that they are supposed to represent. This is not a legal issue, as many Labour councillors will have you believe when you're standing outside lobbying. They often come out, Labour councillors, and say, oh, we can't do this legally. It's absolute nonsense. It's about political will. It's about courage. It's about political choices like those made by Liverpool councillors in the 80s and before them Poplar councillors in the 1920s. But just as importantly, we need to make sure that we're analysing the situation around the economy. We're able to put arguments and we're able to put the alternatives for the future. We in Unite, and especially our research and publicity department, are over the moon that the press are now talking about profiteering and greedflation. We're taking some credit for the fact that they are actually starting to use that language, because normally the language, the so-called understanding around economics from our opponents at best is economically illiterate or downright lies at worst. But here's one that always gets to me. Inflation hits working families and working people. So we have to bring inflation down. And how do we do it? By hurting working families and by hurting working people. What causes inflation? We have to be absolutely 100% clear. I know we've said it here before and at various meetings. There's wage spiral inflation nonsense. Really is that. It's crap and it's nonsense. It's about profits. When the top 350 FTSE companies increased their profits by 85% since 2019 by price gouging, artificially bringing up prices, that's what causes inflation. It's profiteering that causes inflation. Hunt, the Chancellor, said to the Bank of England in a letter during the week, when they were talking about the inflation increases, that you can't give the public sector workers a decent pay increase, because then there'll be a spiral in inflation once again. And it really does just absolutely give the game away as far as they are concerned. The idea that you just simply can't give people enough money to live on, otherwise it will cause inflation, is just absolutely bizarre. Just the last point on economics, pay negotiations. The number of times we've been into meetings, especially now, where employers were saying inflation is coming down. Well, it doesn't look like it's coming down quite as fast as they thought it was going to. But we're being told inflation is coming down, therefore we can't meet your wage demands. Let's be absolutely clear about what inflation is. When inflation comes down, prices do not come down. It's that simple. Inflation is a measure about how quick prices are rising. And when it comes down, it just means prices aren't going up as quickly. It doesn't mean that they are going down. Now, I'm glad I've got the economics bit out the way. When I did economics at school, my economics teacher said he'll never pass the grade. He's absolutely useless, and I'm therefore puzzled as to why he seems so pleased with himself. So I'm really glad that we've managed to get that bit done. As a trade union as well, we are pushing hard now on nationalisation. We've provided the financial arguments around it, and we're absolutely clear. Because sometimes you get asked a question, for instance, in the rail service, is it going to be like what British Rail was? No, we're asking for something, or we're demanding something completely different. Democratic nationalisation with worker, user and community control. Just a last couple of points to finish on. For now, we do have to remember that whatever we win today, we have to defend tomorrow. Last year, Pete Randall was here from Coventry. This last week, I've had to go back to Coventry because the employers are attacking the agreement that we made following that strike. And I'm glad to say that at that morning meeting, our members in Refuse agreed that they would support strike action going forward and being balloted to support the deal that they won last year. So look, just to conclude, make absolutely no secret, we want a society where we don't spend every living day fighting to survive or defending what we have. But that is a society we're going to have to fight for. It's not going to be given to us. And I'm inspired by that fight and by that prospect. And every single day, that inspiration, if you like, is strengthened through the struggles of workers that we're seeing today. Not just the willingness to fight, but the willingness to do what is necessary to win, and proving again and again and again that strike action works. Solidarity, comrades, and victory to every striking worker. Thank you.